Metaverse Champions has multiple flaws to the event. These flaws are very numerous. Although there are multiple things that have improved about in this event, there were also a lot of flaws. After all, nothing's perfect, and critique is a thing that we need to work on for all of us. Metaverse Champions had multiple flaws in it. Metaverse Champions' main flaws are opinionated in this video. Some of the flaws include being inconsistent, which we also mentioned last year as well. It seems to be very consistent problems with the same things as last year, the quality being especially an issue. I'll be using examples of games as well. The problem being is that its inconsistency affects the entire event, and I think this is our largest issue. Next, we'll be going other problems with the event. It's safe to say that Metaverse Champions was in fact decent, but there are still major issues that need to be discussed with the games, the entire purpose of the event, and much more. Since the depth of egg hunts, can we at least go a bit up from there? Will the events be more consistent in quality? And how should the imprint improve for next year? Let's discuss it in this video. My name's Tuki Alex, and this is the Roblox series, where we get right into the Roblox news, drama, tips and tricks, and more. Let's get started. What's up, Hashtag Squad, and welcome back to another video. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe for this Roblox drama, news, tips and tricks, and more. Don't forget to turn on the bell so you never miss out. Anyways, let's get started with the latest. As you know, I made multiple videos on Metaverse Champions. Let's start with the first problem. Paid games. This was a huge issue as this has really never happened before, and allowing exceptions because of misguided directions because no developer really received instructions until really last minute. They were told nothing would be different with the Easter eggs. This caused issues. Misguided directions. The problem is the event wasn't as organized as it should have been, which led to issues like paid games. This should be a free event that should be fully accessible and completable for any player if they wish. Putting paywall barriers because a game is scared to receive dislikes is not really acceptable. Especially considering Roblox events have always been free, this sudden change caused a lot of inconsistency in event. Because not everyone was able to complete every badge, completionists felt upset. And the response was, you do not have to complete all the games. Which this may be true, however, this feels like an obvious excuse and leaves these players dissatisfied. The paid issue also dropped the scores, making it a very unfair event because the event was supposed to be fair for all teams from the beginning. You can't make it completely fair, but you can make attempts. Because AJ Striker had one less games, this dropped him down to third, plus a multitude of other things. And that when Roblox staff admitted that was an oversight on their end, retracting their developer statement to ELRC, Mr. Fergie, it was too late to save the event. Because scores were already lowered and there wasn't really anything that seemed practical or last minute to save the scores. I hope Roblox learns from this next event to not experiment with stuff that affects the facility and running of the event especially. The next issue was the consistency of the event. There were no clear guidelines here, to be honest. Some games were easy, some were hard, which made this more of an experience event more than anything. More of an experimental event, if that makes any sense, which led to our scoring issue of Sparks Kilowatt being incredibly easy compared to other games. The minimal communication had a storyline that made no sense, especially where some characters are evil and some are good, which is where these dev hunts fail. They fail in the storyline. Ultimately, however, there are practical ways to fix this. You see, I like to offer solutions to my complaining, because after all, my complaining would be useless. Developers should all be added to something like a Discord call or a massive Zoom call to discuss a general plan with each other, so that way the Metaverse event seems more consistent in its stuff. The egg hunt last year also had the same problem. Third issue is the games didn't really seem to be consistent in the length of the event. Some had some that were super long, and some that were super short. The event should be able to be done in a certain time frame that Roblox should set, considering that there are 180 games. Few people had time to complete all 180. The quality assurance team always does a good job on their end in terms of things, but I found a lot of the events were lightly skimmed over. There should be a suggestion team other than QA that suggests how to improve the event so that way last minute changes, which are very small changes that can be made. You had some like Tradelands, which took so long, then you had Fields to Tree, which was literally just joining a game and getting the badge. This doesn't make sense and doesn't encourage engagement at all because then we have two different games on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The fifth issue that we need to discuss in the event was Sparks Kilowatt having too easy of games. Now, I know I made jokes in the past that this is a skill issue, but I would say the champions didn't really feel like they had an equal chance of winning. Sparks Kilowatt had very easy multiple challenges during the event. AJ and others had some of the more difficult ones. Sparks Kilowatt had ultimate advantages, some of which were in Roblox's control and some which were out of Roblox's control. Our sixth issue is that the weeks did not seem practical at all. The weeks pressured many for time when the egg hunt was spread out, so that way anything can be collected at any time, therefore putting no pressure on the players. In the weeks, it felt like too short of a time frame to collect everything, especially with other factors that felt like the event was like nearing finals for the American students, and the fact that the inconsistency of the event made it so that way you had to spend 8 hours each time to get all the badges for each week. The seventh issue is that there are so many games that just don't need to be there, unfortunately, and don't encourage engagement at all. The games that are too confusing to keep up with all 180 for them in completeness, and especially the golden games that players want to get. I think the biggest word to describe this event was messy, to say the least. The games had so many inconsistencies, including our second last point, which was not checking the games at all in certain ends. QA did their job, but letting the games in the event with a paywall, letting in BloxTopia, you can see my video on it, just wasn't right, you know what I mean? With so many games, every game just felt like it was skimmed over. I just wish that games offered more brand new content that's fun and exciting, and something that didn't feel like a chore. Something like make it to the end or join the game isn't new content because you can always do those things. Something fresh and new would be exciting. Overall, this event had multiple flaws into it that needed to be addressed by the Roblox team, and these flaws affected the whole event in its entirety. The flaws in this event mainly revolved around consistency, which is what these dev hunts really struggle with, to be honest. Because it seems more community monitored than Roblox monitored. Dev hunts are the future, we cannot complain about dev hunts. Roblox will not listen, so there's absolutely no point about complaining about them. However, these dev points have multiple things that need to be improved on. These multiple things can be improved simply with just a better plan, instead of everyone just working on their own terms, really. Experimental events, I appreciate the work that went into this event. However, this should just be a one-time thing so that way Roblox can improve on the next event and not be so experimental. Thanks for listening to my rambling, and I'll see you in the next video.